The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRCMedia, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
It's Thursday, June 19th, 2025. This is FRCMedia News. I'm Keith Tebow. We're doing something a little different with this week's program. We're going to focus the entire program this week on one topic, specifically the Cathedral of St. Mary of Assumption here in Fall River. Now, that cathedral located on 2nd Street is actually the host church, if you will, for the Diocese of Fall River. The cathedral has been around for over 170 years and in recent years has been in need of repairs. We're going to talk about the repairs with Deacon Tom Palanza. He handles construction and capital projects for the Diocese of Fall River, about the repairs at the cathedral. And we're also going to speak with Angela Barcelos and Carl Sawejko. They are the co-chairs of the Lumen Christi Gala, which is going to be held next week, which will raise funds for those repairs, and as well talk about some other opportunities for people to donate to this project. We are pleased to be recording today's edition of FRCMedia News at the Cathedral of St. Mary of the Assumption in Fall River. It is the host church, if you will, for the Diocese of Fall River. There's been a lot of work done here at the cathedral. The cathedral is over 170 years old. We're going to talk a little bit about the cathedral today, the renovations going on here, as well as an event that's going to be happening next week that will help pay for some of the renovations that are happening here at the cathedral. I'm pleased to be joined at the beginning of our show with Deacon Tom Palanza. He is, I guess, the main person that's sort of organizing a lot of the work here. Deacon Tom, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
We talked a couple of years ago, and, you know, through the years here at the cathedral, 1850s when it was first built, I believe 1855 when it was, dedicated. That's a lot of years, and there have been some renovations here at the church over the years. Talk about some of those over the years. There was some in the late 1800s, 1952 there was some work, 1970s, 2000. Yep. Talk about some of the work that's been done.
So you probably want to talk to Richard Grace, anything prior to the 70s, because I wasn't involved then. Right. But there was a fairly major renovation during the mid-70s, as I understand it. Part of it was to restore some of the lighting, the wiring. In 2000, I was involved with a renovation here with then Bishop O'Malley, which was to add air conditioning to the cathedral and to repair the radiant heat in the floor, which was a major project. We also added a handicap bathroom in the narthex portion of the church. So that lasted for about 4 months. It was an intense renovation throughout the entire cathedral. And now, of course, a couple of years ago, we started with really concentrating on the envelope of the cathedral. And as you know, the higher things are, the less likely they are to be maintained. Right. So we're really starting at the top to evaluate the slates. We repaired some of the missing slates, and then worked our way down to the clerestory windows, basically the envelope of the cathedral. They were having some major leaks throughout the cathedral from the clerestory windows, again, because of years of really not being able to get up there to paint and repair. So that was the focus of our project last year. Right. There were some extensive repairs needed to the frames that had deteriorated over the years. Those repairs were made, and after the window frame itself was restored, we added polycarbonate sheets, which we've done successfully over the years, the 35 years now that I've been working in the diocese, so that once it's painted, it's protected from the elements. Right. So that was a key aspect. Also, it became so dark inside the cathedral because the fixtures they used in the 70s were primarily metal halide or halogens, and when those lamps went out, they couldn't be replaced now. So one by one, the cathedral became darker and darker until it became a real issue with liturgies and just the fact that it was so dark and undesirable that last year during the summer months, we brought a machine inside the cathedral and replaced all of those fixtures with LED.
And also some that were added as well, correct?
They were added because the LED fixtures now are a fixture. It's not just a lamp that you put in, other than the ones that you could put into a socket. So we had to enlarge in the holes in the catwalk. We had to replace it. It was quite a project, and we needed like a 75-foot aerial lift to get up to those areas. Fortunately, most of the wiring was in good shape that we found because it was replaced in the 70s.
Yeah. So let me ask you, you mentioned the clear story windows. Those are if you're looking from the outside, it's the stained glass windows that are at the upper parts of the cathedral, correct? That are not the traditional stained glass windows if you're looking sort of parallel to the cathedral. They're the ones that are up high.
Right. So the designation, the lower ones are called lancet windows.
Right.
The ones from the lower roof to the upper roof in between are called clerestory or clerestory, depending on how you want to say it. Right. Obviously more difficult to access, so it required quite a bit of scaffolding to get up there.
Yeah.
So that was a major project, and we're just about finished with it now, about 95%.
Now, what's the status of the rest of the envelope? And was there work done, or is there work going to be done on the roof and like some of the pointing areas of the building? Right.
So we started 2 years ago with the lancet window on the east side.
Right, I remember that.
Which was under distress. It had started to lose its structural integrity because the center beams were rotted. So that was a priority that we did, not only to repair it, but then to see how many man hours it would take to make the repair so that we could forecast the rest of them. So the goal is to restore the rest of these lancet windows. But we're chasing leaks to a lot of this. And we were trying to plug the leaks, stop anything that was in severe deterioration. The next part of the project will be, once the scaffolding is removed from the clerestory windows, we're going to erect it around the tower.
Okay.
The lancet windows in the tower, including the belfry, are in pretty bad shape. So we've lost some pieces of granite. So there will be some pointing involved in that. But in general, the granite is in very good shape because it's granite. Right. And it's just minor pointing for that. But the real trauma to the envelope is the wood windows, whether they're lancet windows or the clerestory windows. So that's going to be the bulk of our attention now. We've moved into the Ladies' Chapel. That window there, we've received developments received a grant to restore those windows. So we're going to start doing that because the window of Mary in Our Lady's Chapel is really under quite need of repair.
Yeah, in the past few years when all this began, the latest round of renovations, what was done in terms of identifying the needs?
So we had drone media done so that we could see what we couldn't see from the ground. And we saw that there was some slates missing, particularly over on the north side gable end, that needed to be, obviously, if there's any holes in the roof, slates missing, that had to be repaired. And as those slates were repaired, we also did a survey of the fastener and the slate to see if it was copper, what was the condition of it. Because the slates in general are in good condition. The fasteners many times are the weak point. If the fasteners deteriorate, you can have the best slate in the world, but you're going to have a problem. Yeah. So far, so good with that. We've evaluated the slates, and they're in good shape.
Now, in terms of a structure like this, I mean, you could never build one of these from scratch. Was it difficult? Are there enough contractors out there that do this type of work, especially when it comes to the windows? And was there any repair needed to any of the stained glass itself?
So, first answer to the question. Yeah. Fortunately, I have a crew of men that we've been together for about 25 years, just doing ecclesiastical renovations. They're the best between the electrical work that was done in here or the carpentry work. They're well attuned to that type of work, and they're just the best craftsmen we have, and they're local to Fall River. So secondly, it's something that that's becoming a lost art now, finding those type of craftsmen that can take apart some of the doors that they did to bring the machines in, put it back together so no one would notice it. So they're really the team. They're the ones that get it done.
Right. Now, in terms of the money that has been spent, we'll talk about the collection of money and the raising of money during our second segment. But what's been the cost thus far? And obviously there's a lot of other work. We haven't even talked about the interior of the cathedral. But what other work? I guess what's the priority? You talked about the tower. I guess talk a little bit about how much money has been spent. What's the priorities maybe moving forward as you continue this work?
So. To date, we've been prudent and careful with the money and working most efficiently, and I believe it's about $540,000 that have been spent. So basically, we depend on the revenue from the gala, and we try to put that to good use to make the most efficient and effective repairs that we can that year, that season. Some of the materials, some of the coatings are temperature sensitive, so we have a certain window of time to do the work, and then we have to shut it down.
Yeah. Do you feel that you're making the headway? I mean, obviously the cathedral is in a lot better shape than it was. We spoke, I believe, a couple of years ago. Obviously the cathedral is in much better shape now, and it's just sort of, like you said, you're chasing the leaks, you're chasing the problems. Right?
Yeah, no, I think so far we've done an effective job at, as I mentioned, with the clerestory windows, they had pails and buckets lined up throughout both the east and the west nave, collecting water depending on which way the wind-driven rain was coming. So that, as I understand, is about 99%. So, I think we've been effective at identifying and then repairing the critical needs for the cathedral, focusing on the envelope, aside from the interior lighting upgrade, which made everyone inside much happier and brighter. So that was a big plus last year too.
And if you go to the web page that talks about the gala, there's some videos and photos of work that's being done. There's been some inside work done as well, some tiling, ceiling work inside as well, correct?
There was.
And you talked about the sills here.
Yeah, the task originally from the rector, Father Federici, and the bishop was to restore the lighting level in the cathedral for people to read, for people to see. But while we're in here, and because we had to move many of the pews, it made sense to refasten some of the pews. We had to move the baptismal font to bring the equipment in. The pump wasn't working, so we fixed the pump and put the font back together. And over the years, because the windows have been leaking, the sill right below the lancet windows have been deteriorating, the plaster. So those were all stripped and redone. During the time that we were working here, we brought some of the crew in from the outside just to make as many interior repairs as we could, aesthetically and functionally, to the inside of the cathedral.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking forward, bigger picture, obviously the envelope is the focus. To try to keep a building that's 170 plus years old viable for another 170 years, who knows, right? What will be next steps in terms of, you mentioned the targets, what are next steps?
Right, so the next step, I think what we're hoping for this year is the west side lancets are really in need of a coat of primer and paint. So we may not get to restoring the stained glass, but we want to preserve the wood as much as we can before it gets to a point where it needs to be replaced. But as I said, once the scaffolding's down, we have to scaffold a bell tower. And then we have to make some decisions on repairing the lancet windows, securing the bell tower from weathering so that most of the plaster had been stripped off that was loose. And as I said, some of the granite it's delaminated, so there will be some stone granite repairs as well. But once the scaffolding is up, it also protects from something falling, a piece of wood or something that needs to be tended to. So I think that's our priority for the late summer, early fall.
Right. And then looking ahead, are you looking to get some work done inside? I know there's some plaster issues in interior and
well, I think once the exterior envelope is secured, that certainly there are things that the rector of the cathedral, the bishop, and others have talked about that they would like to see improvements. But I think the focus now is to make fast the outside so that we don't have any interior damages before we do any repairs inside. Right.
Are you confident that, I'm sure a lot of this was daunting at the beginning. You talked about the drone footage and just the assessment of the issues outdoors. Are you confident that, there's less worries now and that, the more you do, it'll just, help preserve the structure?
No, I think so. And, once we get scaffolding up that we can put our hands to something, it dispels some of the the feeling that you don't know what you're getting into. Really,
Right.
on these jobs, you have to get up there. From the ground, you can only see so much. Through a drone, you can only see so much. It's hard to evaluate the level of deterioration. And even with that work, you have to get started on it to see how, it's like a filling, how deep you have to go before you can make the repair.
Yeah.
So, we were happy to get up there on those clerestory windows.
Yeah.
And now with the tower will be the next, and the rest of the repairs, fairly lower to the ground, so it's more manageable.
Yeah. Well, Deacon Tom Palanza, I appreciate your time. Thank you for the update and the work. You can definitely see the work. If you've ever been to the cathedral indoors, just the lighting you mentioned is hugely significant. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back. Now that we talked about all the repairs going on here at the cathedral, they need money to make those repairs, and that's where the Catholic Foundation of Southeastern Massachusetts comes into effect. It's the foundation arm, if you will, that helps on many of the projects here, the capital projects and other opportunities here within the diocese. We're going to talk about one event that's actually happening next week. It's the Lumen Christi Gala, which raised funds specifically targeted toward the repairs here at the cathedral. This year it's the 4th edition of the gala, and I'm pleased to be joined by the co-chairs of the gala, Angela Barcelos and Carl Sawejko. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Keith.
Before we get into the gala itself, and either one of you, maybe I'll direct this to Angela. The work that's being done here in the cathedral is to maintain it, of course, to make sure it is preserved for many years to come. But a lot of people may not know the background in terms of the significance of this building. What can you tell us about the significance of the cathedral when it comes to the Diocese of Fall River specifically?
Great, yeah. So the cathedral, which actually means seat in Latin, this is where the bishop sits. This is the mother church of our diocese. And this is actually a very special place personally for me.
Yeah.
In 2022, so not too long ago, I actually got confirmed here. So I was a wandering soul for many years. I was away from the church. I found my way back to the church, and in 2022, sitting in one of those pews, which has since been fixed, I was confirmed. And as a Catholic, we believe that Jesus is present in the Eucharist, and that was the first time here in this building that I received our Lord, the creator of heaven and earth, and that was an incredible experience right here in this building.
Now, Carl, in terms of, again, the significance, the bishop himself does not have like a parish. He's not like a, he's not a pastor.
He's a shepherd.
Right, he's a shepherd, right? But when there are, like, during the holidays, Easter and Christmas, Advent and Lent, he uses this facility to celebrate those events. So in some ways, this is his home, right? In many ways,
definitely.
right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't physically reside on the property, this being our mother church, for example, we bless the holy oils during Holy Week here, the Chrism Mass that we have. Right. And that brings all of our parishes together.
I was saying, that's for the entire diocese,
right? For the entire diocese. So all of our priests, our deacons, our sisters, the laity, we gather here, and then these holy oils that are being used throughout the diocese are blessed here, and then they're distributed to all the parishes to be taken out. So this is the central focus. This is the command post, so to speak, of our diocese. This is where we all meet. We call it our mother church. So it probably is, of all the facilities we have in our diocese, this is certainly the gathering place and probably the most important building in our diocese.
And it's also important to note that this is also a parish in and of itself.
Oh, absolutely.
It's part of, I believe, a tri-parish community here in Fall River. So it is a parish. Parishioners come weekly and on holy days. I believe there's even daily masses here.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Yes,
so it's not just for special occasions and just for the bishop's use. It's a living, breathing parish within the diocese.
Right, and that's one of the things that I think is most important about this Lumen Christi event is that's to send that message to the entire diocese. You know, we all go to our respective churches, mine being in Swansea and Somerset, and we have 3 parishes too that we're in the process of putting together, because that's what you have to do in the 21st century in order to survive. You know, our bishop has done an incredible job and it is a very difficult job in looking at all of this parish infrastructure that's more than 100 years old, this church here being 200 years, and saying, what do we do in the 21st century to make this viable economically and also spiritually? And I think as times have changed, these churches were all built to accommodate the different ethnicities of people. You know, the Portuguese had a church, the Polish had a church, the French had a church. Well, that's become very blended as time went on. And as it becomes blended, so do parishes. So we don't need as many buildings, basilicas, like we had 100 years ago, and we have to look at it from an economic standpoint. So having an event like this to support our mother church is so very important. And I think this year, if you look, it's people love to give money, but they like to see where their money goes. And it's very hard to sell people on the fact that the windows are leaking unless you're sitting under one of them and you get splashed during a mass. But other than that, it's hard. But this year we have such a spectacular outcome with this lighting. There's a video that you can see on the Facebook page of the Catholic Diocese, which shows and talks about all of this. It's magnificent. I came here as a child. My mom and I used to come here on a Friday night for benediction, and I was petrified coming into this building because it was so dark and so uninviting. I never knew the beautiful woodwork that existed in the ceiling until now. It took all these years. So Lumen Christi is the support mechanism for that. But as we'll talk about later, it's much more.
So you know, let's get into it. This is the 4th gala. You know, obviously there was a need for the repairs here, and you know, a committee came together to organize this. This is the fourth edition. Let me just ask you, in the first 3 years, how much money has been raised? And I mean, ballpark. I'm not going to hold you to a penny here.
No. Probably we've been pretty successful at raising about $200,000 or more, and John, I think we might be right on that, collectively, which obviously in a project like this, as I'm sure Tom Palanza attributed to, gets spent relatively quickly. So this is an ongoing effort, but it's much more than that. This is yes, it's an opportunity to raise funds, but this is, I think, a unique opportunity for us to celebrate our parishes, for us to celebrate what this cathedral means to this diocese. And we can't do that without celebrating our priests and our clergy. It's so very important, especially this year where we're recognizing significant anniversaries. And oh, by the way, we're going to be doing that at the gala too. So we'd love to see all of our priests that are celebrating those significant anniversaries to be able to join us on that night, because it's a very special night. And it's a night for all of us to talk about, like Angela, to talk about Angela's story, her coming back to the church. With our new Pope, I think there's a resurgence of people like Angela who are outside the door and looking in and saying, maybe it's time for me to come back. And I think this Pope, and certainly our bishop, being very inviting to folks to want to come back and see what this is all about. Because the state of the world right now, as you well know, is very much in a state of flux. We need some grounding, as the bishop has mentioned in so many of his homilies, you know, to get close to that cross, to be able to hold on to the cross when things are difficult. And Lumen Christi is all about that, you know, Light of Christ. It talks about more than an event to raise money for the cathedral, which we have to do, and there couldn't be a better benefactor, but it's a time for all of us to gather and share our faith, our experiences, talk about our parishes, and talk about parish life and what it means to us.
Angela, let's talk about the event itself. It's June 25th at Whites of Westport. I believe 6 p.m. start. And this is the 4th edition. What can people expect if they go to the event?
So we have a special band, Vatican III, which is made up of priests in our own diocese. So they're going to be entertaining us with some jazz to start, some socialization, you know, some drinks. We're Catholic, we like wine, right? There is going to be some brief presentations. There's going to be some pictures and videos of all the changes that have been made. There's going to be a lovely dinner and an ability, as As my colleague here mentioned, for us to get together as a community, right? There's so much separation and so much isolation.
Yeah, the
in
fellowship
world.
is important.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's
Absolutely.
just getting together to really have that community feel.
And this year, as every gala tends to recognize someone within the diocese or within the Catholic community here in the diocese that have done great work. And this year, Madeline and Richard Grace are being honored this year. Talk about them.
Yeah, this is, every year I keep saying that, there's nobody better than the people that we're honoring at these Lumen Christi events, but we've once again hit the nail dead on with the two that we've chosen. And not only the two, but their family. Madeline and Richard Grace embody what Catholicism and what being an active part of the church is. Madeline has been director of music here at the Cathedral, I think, forever. And her family, her whole family, it's a musical family. Her husband, her daughters, they're all involved, and they have been involved with their philanthropy, with their faith. Richard has a background in history, so he's sort of the historian of our diocese, and especially of this building. Professor Emeritus from Providence College, very, very well-known, very articulate man, and they're just the essence of the church. So again, I must say that we could not have picked two better individuals and their family to honor this year for the recipients of the Lumen Christi Award.
We're airing this, it's June 19th, so it's actually next week. Can people still buy tickets, and how can they do that?
Oh, absolutely. They can go on to the website,
Catholic Foundation, SEMA.org, and there is a page dedicated, right, to the Lumen Christi Gala, I believe,
That
right?
is right.
Right.
Now, if people cannot attend, we have busy schedules, they can feel free to donate. We're always open for donations. There's a lot of great work that's been done, but there's a lot more that needs to be done.
Yeah, and that information can be found on the website again, Catholic Foundation, SEMA, as in Southeastern Massachusetts, .org, and they can find out information. Not only, we're talking specifically about the cathedral, but there are other projects that people can donate to as well, but there are some dedicated funds that can go directly to this project. It should be an exciting evening coming up on June 25th, and it's great for us to talk about this. And we did a story, I believe, 2 years ago when some of this work was basically starting. In many ways, shape, and form. And it's something, and I asked about this with Tom, there's no way you can replicate what we have here.
No. You couldn't build this. It would be almost insurmountable. The craftsmanship that's in here, many of these artisans and craftsmen are long gone. It'd be very difficult to replicate this. And if you could, it certainly would be cost prohibitive.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Angela and Carl, I appreciate your time. Thank you, and all the best with this year's gala.
Oh, we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun time. Last year was our largest, and I'm sure this year we're well underway. We're going to have an even better gala this year. So invite everybody to join us. Let's celebrate our priests, our deacons, our clergy, our parishes, our parishioners. Let's celebrate each other, and let's bring more people into the church.
All right, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Keith.
We'll be back right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center. Engineering Senior Analyst. Whirlpool Corporation, located at 88 Current Road, seeks a full-time engineering senior analyst responsible for leading and directing the successful implementation of the company's manufacturing strategy. Job number 226-44984. Warehouse Operator. Ice Cube Innovation, located at 615 Innovation Way, is looking for a full-time warehouse operator responsible for managing inventory, processing orders, and ensuring efficient operations of the warehouse. Job number 226-38483. For more information about these or other positions, visit Mass Hire JobQuest at jobquest.dcs.ol.mass.gov or call the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
That's all for this edition of FRC Media News. Please visit our website, frmedia.org, for more local news and information. FRC Media News airs Thursdays at 6 p.m. and Fridays at 5:30 p.m. on Channel 95 and the 4 over HD channel located on Channel 1072. One programming note, we are going to be off next week. We'll be back very soon with another edition of the program. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.